Have you read any of Marco Allegro stuff?
No.
John Marco Allegro wrote a book called The Sacred
Oh
Mushroom and
yes.
the Cross.
Oh yes. Yeah. I read that back. Oh my God, 1974.
Oh,
Like
so
a
you
long
probably
time ago.
read it before it was bought up by the Catholic Church.
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, it was bought up by like you used to have to get old copies of it if you wanted to buy it, and then it was recently republished.
Yeah. I read that a long time ago. I had no idea what to make of it. When I read it, I thought, I have no idea what to do with this.
It's a problem because to really understand what he's saying, you would have to have a deep understanding of those ancient languages.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a very difficult book to evaluate.
Because there's very few people that are even qualified to, like, many people have disputed some of his, like, he has one claim that the word Christ can be traced etymologically, how do you say it?
Etymologically. Yeah.
To an ancient Sumerian word that means a mushroom covered in God's semen.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was his assertion that the idea was that
That's
they
the anointing.
thought when it rained, that rain was the giver of life, and it was literally God's semen that made things grow, and that these mushrooms, because they would show up so quickly. Mm-hmm. You know, if it rains, if you go to bed, you could look out at just your lawn, and it's complete grass, not a mushroom in sight. And you can go to bed and then wake up in the morning, and there'll be big mushrooms there. It's really weird. Mm-hmm. And that these things, when they would eat these psilocybin mushrooms that would appear out of nowhere, they genuinely were referring to them as God, that this was like a gift from God, and that was tracing back to the origin of the word Christ. But it's very tortured. Like, to really understand and to be able to dispute it, you'd have to have a deep understanding of Aramaic. You'd have to have a deep understanding of Aramaic. You'd have to have a deep understanding of the original doctrines, like what is the actual translation? What does it mean? You'd have to understand the ancient Hebrew version of it. How does it differ?
All the webs of associations.
Oh, God, it's so crazy. When we read it in English, I mean, what was the original version? The original version, all the ancient letters in ancient Hebrew also doubled as numbers, right? So words had numerical value. Like the word God and the word love apparently have the same numerical value. That is a bizarre concept for us to try to wrap our heads around. A language which you know that words also have numbers in them, that your letters also mean numbers, and that there's value, certain numerical value to certain words, and that you would use them in the context of these conversations. You would understand where I don't understand. I don't have that. I have English. It's like we have math, we have language. They're separate, and you're missing something in what they're trying to say. So what John Marco Allegro is doing, he's taking the oldest version of these stories on record, right? He's taking the Dead Sea Scrolls. He's taking stuff that's literally written on animal skins, and one of the ways that they deciphered it to try to put it all together, they had to take the DNA samples of these parchments to try to figure out which ones are from which cows, if they're from different cows. And that's part of the way they figured out how to put all the stuff together. This guy studies this for 14 years. 14, and he was the only ordained minister that was a part of this deciphering committee. I think there was 14 people. I don't remember how many people. It might have been 20. But he was the only one of them that was agnostic. So he had become, when he had started studying theology, he kind of lost his faith, apparently. You know, when he started realizing there's so many versions of these stories, they're coming from different places, he became sort of like, hey, I think I'm agnostic. I'm just going to like step back and have this approach of not knowing, not having a doctrine, not having an ideology that I'm attached to myself to. And so then when he goes through all of this is a straight-laced scientist, by the way. This is not like some guy looking for psychedelics to be a part of everything.
Yes, it's a very serious book.
Right. And there's a lot of those people that are doing that. They're looking for psychedelics to be a part of everything, sort of to validate or justify their own use of these things. He wasn't doing that at all. You know, and he wasn't like Wasson, where a guy who went down and experienced the psychedelic experiences in Mexico and then came back and described them for mainstream literature. This guy was doing it
Like a scholar.
And his whole purpose was just to decipher the Dead Sea Scrolls. But it was so compelling to him when it was over, he like had to break ranks, and he had to write this book. And then they took that book out of circulation, I believe. Find out what happened with the Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, how it was, because he published another book shortly afterwards that was the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Christian Myth. And I think it felt to me when I read that one, it's almost like he has to write a book because they took the other one away, because it was kind of like saying most of the same stuff. But he believed that it was that what they were writing about, a lot of it was fertility rituals and psychedelic experiences, and that they were hiding a lot of these stories, like they were hiding the knowledge underneath these stories to try to, in parables and all these different ways, to try to obscure it from the Romans and obscure it from the people that conquered them, so they wouldn't know they would know the secrets of this thing, this ritual in which they would experience God.